Welcome to After Party. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Big show tonight. Taylor Swift just got off a live stream of the New Heights podcast with her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, and, of course, his brother, Jason Kelce, arguably the more superior Kelce. But we're going to get into all of that. I actually surprised myself in reaction to the Taylor Swift appearance on New Heights, which, again, the world is currently digesting. We haven't had much time to chew on it, but we're going to do some quick, rapid response to the Taylor Swift appearance. So much going on. I mean, they had 1 million people watching live on YouTube, basically uncalled for YouTube numbers. Really interesting stuff that I think broke new ground for pop culture, and it just happened within the last hour. So we're absolutely going to get to that. My friends Rachel Bovard and Inez Stepman are here, and we're going to have a great conversation on everything from Washington, D.C. and the Trump administration's federal takeover here in the capital city. They have really interesting perspectives. Actually, both of them have lived in D.C. Inez will be able to talk a little bit about why she left D.C. and fled, of course, to New York City, where people find refuge in the clean and peaceful streets. We'll have some fun with that one, but also get, I think, some serious insights from people who are fired up about it. And there's a crazy new article in The Cut. I'm just going to stop right there because you've heard probably that line 7,000 different times over the course of your life, but it's almost like it's Groundhog Day. It is another crazy article in The Cut. We're going to break it down. Let's just say it has something to do with an economist crunching the numbers, leaving her husband, and marrying a woman. Lots to get into, of course. And, we might, if we have time, I might get Rachel and Inez to tell me what they think about the sorority videos. I'm going to make them think about that. So Jussie Smollett also is plotting a comeback. We have all kinds of huge, groundbreaking news to cover tonight. We're going to get to all of it. Let's start, though, with what I think is maybe one of the underappreciated storylines in all of politics right now. Obviously, what we're seeing in the state of Texas is Democrats realizing actually what Wisconsin Democrats thought that they had realized in 2011. The National Party never quite caught up to it, but that what their base wanted to see from them was staunch, intense, bold resistance to, at that time, it was Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker and his Act 10 policies. But now Texas Democrats believe that the base wants them to stand up on this question of gerrymandering and fled the state, preventing a quorum. Republicans, you'll notice, are trying to fight back just as tough. And so the significance of this, I mean, obviously there are real electoral downstream effects that will come of all of it. But I think this is a story that tells us a lot about our politics right now, and it tells us something really important about the Democratic Party that a couple of Democrats are waking up and realizing. And you may not like Beto O'Rourke, but I'm about to play a video which I think shows that Beto O'Rourke is really on the cutting edge of where Democratic Party politics are headed. And let me just say, if you're a centrist, if you're a sort of someone who just votes for the best candidate, goes back and forth, not super interested in the labels, man, are the next 10 years probably going to be rough for you. So let's go ahead and roll this clip of Beto O'Rourke.
We are in a basketball game right now, if you'll excuse the metaphor, where the refs have left the arena. And the other side is just clobbering the shit out of us, just punching us in the face, kicking us in the nuts. And we're kind of throwing our hands up and we're asking the crowd, the people of America, hey, do you see what's going on here? This is unfair. This isn't the rules that we agreed to play by. Well, who cares about the fucking rules right now? Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some fucking power.
Dunk over their heads and win some power. Now, if you're on the right, that clip probably does feel a little cringy to you, right? You see that sort of the really all the F-bombs, and it feels from a lot of Democrats, especially if you're like a privileged white guy like Beto O'Rourke, it feels a little bit like he's putting on a show, a little performative, of course. And I think there's something to that. I think there are Democrats, mainstream high-profile Democrats, who do that worse and are much cringier than Beto when he does it. But we've talked about this on that show. We've talked about this on the show. The Democrats right now are in a position where they're starting to realize they have the sentiment in their base that Republicans had during the Tea Party years. And Donald Trump came along in 2016 and made it impossible for the Republicans to continue ignoring the Tea Party base, which said, I despise the Republican Party establishment as much as I despise the Democrats. What are you telling me, that I should trust John Boehner over Nancy Pelosi? John Boehner is supposed to believe what I believe and share my values and represent them and run a House of Representatives that represents where I am. And John Boehner does not do that. It's almost worse in a way than Nancy Pelosi. And I'm paraphrasing arguments that were much more common in 2010, 2012. And when the 2012 Republican autopsy report came out that said, we're going to diagnose what went wrong in Mitt Romney's loss, it, of course, infamously now, recommended a path of moderation as the path to electoral success. None of this had anything to do with the morality of the policies, of course, but you need to moderate on immigration. You need to moderate on social issues. This is what the RNC prescribed after Mitt Romney's loss. And what Donald Trump did was come along and say, actually, there's a path to victory that also allows you to get what you want on a moral level, on a policy level. And he turned it all completely upside down. Democrats haven't really listened because the Democratic establishment hasn't had a Trump-like wrecking ball. And Trump is like the only Trump-like wrecking ball that'll ever exist. He's singular, and he will always be singular in the history of American politics. But Democrats haven't had any force come along and knock them back off their feet and say, you guys have to at least give some significant wins when it comes to breaking with your establishment priorities. And that might not even mean anything serious, right? We saw in 2020 a bunch of corporatist, centrist Dems come along and say, wow, this Bernie Sanders guy did really well in 2016. Let's all be for Medicare for all. Let's all play footsie with abolish ICE and defund the police. Let's all be fully on board with the furthest, most radical policies when it comes to transgenderism. Let's, I think it was like even Kirsten Gillibrand, swear off corporate PAC donations, which is another thing Ken Martin over at the DNC is seriously considering right now. That was in the New York Times today. And what I mean by all of this is Democrats at least postured a little bit towards Bernie Sandersism, right? And I think Joe Biden's, I wrote about it at the time, McClatchy did an analysis of Joe Biden's platform in 2020 and said it was the most radical Democratic Party platform in modern history. And the one before that had been the most radical Democratic platform in party history, the furthest left. I shouldn't say radical. I believe the word they used was furthest left, most progressive. The one right before that was Hillary Clinton in 2016. And how did Joe Biden govern? Well, in a way that left the left deeply, deeply unsatisfied with their party leadership. And is it policy or is it vibes? I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think the same was true in the Tea Party era because the Tea Party was up in arms about the national debt and these ballooning entitlement costs. And where did that lead everyone? Well, to a movement right now where you do still have some debt and deficit hawks. You do still have some people who are absolutely furious about government spending, about no audit of the Pentagon being able to be completed satisfactorily, never being able to get anyone to really do it. People are still deeply angry about some of the same things, but it's really how those frustrations are channeled. And in the case of Democrats right now, this is one of the reasons that they were never able to have or to keep Joe Rogan. And it's why they haven't really been able to compete with a Joe Rogan, except for basically one guy. In all seriousness, Hasan Piker. And we can go ahead and put this GQ headline on the screen. Hasan got a splashy profile in GQ that was published just today. And the headline is Hasan Piker thinks America might be cooked. Now, if you don't know who Hasan Piker is, he's like a Twitch streamer who is incredibly, let's say, irreverent and deeply anti-American. I think he would probably agree with that. One of his most controversial statements is I'll say it's very offensive to many people, but that America deserved 9/11. When he says things, he's sort of often misunderstood because people don't realize the nihilism that infects every corner of like Zoomer streaming of the Zoomer streaming ecosystem. So a lot of it, honestly, is it's an attempt to like find purpose, meaning, and the guy is like chewing through every zin within 3 square feet of himself to get like a little bit of a buzz. And listen, Gen Z doesn't have a lot of sex or drink a lot of booze, but they do get high on saying crazy shit on the internet. And Hasan is one of those people. Let's put F2 on the screen. This was his comment on Zoran Mamdani. He said, quote, "Big Z's the man. He's great. He's going to implement woke Sharia in New York. Very excited about that. All the buildings have to face Mecca." That kind of good stuff. And like, listen, Hasan Piker can be enormously cringe, and so can the people who write about him. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Someone pulled this part from the GQ article where the writer says, "As Piker burns through his 70-minute workout, exhausting himself in the process, he strips his shirt off. An army of girls and gays, not to mention admiring looks maxers, would kill to be where I am right now." Next to Piker, as he pants in a pair of neon shorts with black Calvin Klein boxers poking out and sunlight glinting off the sweat beaded on his chest hairs. Oh, I botched the ending. Maybe I should read the last line again. No, I'll spare you. I needn't do that. But like the fandom over Hasan Piker feels really desperate sometimes. Like people are just looking for anything on the left to cling to that looks like it might be masculine and that it looks like it might be irreverent in a way that, frankly, Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg just couldn't pull off. And so I get why this GQ writer is clearly enormously aroused by Hasan Piker. Mentally, of course. I don't mean physically, although it sure sounds like he's physically aroused by, I think that the author was a man, by Hasan Piker. But there's a desperation, right? It smacks of desperation. But it's actually, I think with Piker, he's and this is one of the big takeaways that people should have if they're looking into the guy, he's as critical of the Democratic Party establishment as any Tea Party Republican was of the Republican Party establishment in 2012. And this is where, again, could Kamala Harris do a good job on the Joe Rogan Experience? Absolutely not, because she is not willing to go beyond platitudes when it comes to excoriating the uniparty. Hasan Piker, no fan of Republicans, no friend of conservatives, but he has that same frustration at the uniparty that people had on the right in 2010 and 2012. And the only reason the Republican Party paid a modicum of attention to it, and I'm as deeply cynical as I am generally, I'm not really that cynical about the downstream effects of populism on the Republican Party, because whatever happens in the second Trump administration, Republican voters have relearned some, I think, really good impulses, like questioning the military-industrial complex. Not everyone, but that is now a significant seat at the table in Republican politics. And there are people who are going to try to force this on the Democratic Party. Let me put one more thing up on the screen. This was a really good observation from Prem Thacker, who pointed out that Andrew Cuomo just put out a tweet. He says, being a progressive means making real progress. There's only one candidate in this race who's passed a bill supported by Bernie Sanders. Surprise, that's me. I'm a progressive because I believe in getting things done for people who need it. And Prem responded, the political atmosphere in the U.S. has changed so much that the establishment candidate is now trying to insist that he's more like Bernie Sanders, which is funny. And again, on a policy level, if you're a conservative, you look at that and you say, well, I'm not sure that I want Democrats to be more like Bernie Sanders on, again, like a policy front. Although I suppose it depends on the policy. Bernie can have some interesting observation on, for example, credit card companies and Wall Street. And, he used to be a little bit Maha, not so Maha anymore, if you remember those confirmation hearings. But this is the direction that the Democratic base wants to go. I'm not talking about the average Democratic Party voter. I'm talking about the base, the party faithfuls, the grassroots. And for a long time, the party elite have ignored them. And this is what created a kettle that was boiling over for the Tea Party. So Dems, by ignoring these forces and not even trying to address them in a meaningful political way, have shot themselves in the foot. They have been way too defensive of their party infrastructure and the official apparatus of the Democratic Party. And it's about to come back to haunt them because they poured gasoline on the fire that is this appetite for complete and total upheaval for the better part of a decade now. And Republicans got a taste of what that's like, got a taste of that populism, and Democrats shut down Bernie Sanders' campaign over and over again. And voters never forgot that. The base never forgot that. And the base now feels like Bernie Sanders was widely, or let's just say broadly, vindicated because they saw the entire party establishment lie about Joe Biden's mental capacity. The party base was furious at the Biden administration when it came to Israel. We can debate, whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that they're furious about it. And so that's where the Democratic elite find themselves right now. And whether it's Zohran Mamdani, and again, that's deep blue New York, of course, but we're not talking again about your average Democrat at the Union Hall or at the PTA meeting. We're talking about the party faithfuls, the grassroots, who often steer primary battles, who the media is often very responsive to. And it's not insignificant. And many people, political scientists, look at how the base controls politics because of the primary system and say it's a bad thing. I don't really agree with that. But it's definitely, when you're in a highly polarized environment, one that keeps you ping-ponging back and forth from populist left and populist right at this moment in our history. So Dems, I think, are in for a wake-up call again, whether it's Beto or Zohran or Hasan Piker. Suddenly people are starting to be responsive, or Andrew Cuomo, by the way. Cuomo and Beto are good examples of guys who are closer to the like mainstream. They're not considered like crunchy hippie leftists, but they're adopting a tone. And whether that trickles into policy is another question. I think probably it does on certain issue areas, but it's really going to be the test is really going to be for any Democrat that wants to make it in the new media ecosystem, but more importantly, with the Democratic Party base that is consuming that new media ecosystem. The test for them is going to be how much they can match these sentiments. And I think that's not as well understood as it probably should be, or it's let's say foggy to a lot of people in DC right now. It hasn't crystallized, but it will soon enough. Maybe not through a Dem version of Trump, but it will soon enough. So on that note, I'm going to bring Rachel and Inez in just one second, but I want to start by saying it's actually pretty hard to go to sleep after this show. You might think that all the booze puts me to sleep, but I actually don't drink that much while we're filming. But after wrapping the shows at 11, live broadcasting just gets your adrenaline going. And one of the things that helps me go to bed is, in all honesty, I really look forward to those Cozy Earth bamboo sheets. I love them. And of course, the bubble cuddle blanket. They make it much, much easier to get to sleep. I get excited to jump in bed, even after the high of partying with our great guests who just keep making news on the show. You get the adrenaline of the news and all of that. These bamboo sheets are next level, though. They're buttery soft, breathable, and they keep you cool all night. You'll sleep a few degrees cooler and wake up genuinely refreshed. They really are awesome. And that bubble cuddle blanket is like a warm, luxurious hug. Mid-weight, plush faux fur, equal parts nap-worthy and stylish. There's a reason Cozy Earth offers a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. They know you'll fall in love. So here is the move, everyone. Go to CozyEarth.com and use my code Emily for up to 40% off. That's CozyEarth.com, code Emily. And if you get the post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about it right here, because your bed shouldn't just be a place to sleep. It should be your happy place. And Cozy Earth makes that possible. On that note, I'm excited to be joined now by Inez Stepman. She's a legal analyst for Independent Women's Forum, and Rachel Bovard, who is, of course, vice president at the Conservative Partnership Institute. Guys, what's up?
I brought a drink this time. Yeah, we're still up. That's what.
Oh, good. I was worried one of you would fall
Babies are
asleep.
still up.
Yeah, I was legitimately worried one of you would fall asleep. But I know what kept you up is that both of you have been champing at the bit to talk about the DC crime story. Because, and actually, Inez, you have an interesting. Rachel works in DC. Inez lived in one of the parts of DC, actually very near where the one and only Big Balls was assaulted just last week in the sensible precipitating event for Trump's federal takeover, which was probably in the works anyway. But there were, like, have you guys seen these clips? Let's roll. This is a voiceover V1. There's like federal law enforcement roaming Union Station last night. Union Station definitely needs a heightened police presence, but they were also roaming the streets of Georgetown, one of the high-end neighborhoods, though I will add, has had smash and grabs. I had an attempted vehicle theft on the street, broad daylight in Georgetown just a few years ago, vehicle vandalized, all of that good stuff. Fun times. So Inez, as both a great legal mind and someone who fled DC for the verdant, peaceful streets of New York City, you seem to be pretty happy about all of this and unperturbed by the jackbooted thugs taking over the streets of idyllic Georgetown.
Yeah, it's funny that the overlap between the people who pretend to be urbanists and into, the walkable city and everything, and the people who want law and order so that people can actually walk on the streets is basically zero. But yeah, no, I'm really glad to see DC actually have a chance of turning itself around. I don't think people understand how violent DC is, and I have the perfect comparison, especially how you set this up, Emily. The DC homicide rate, if you account for the number of people and you normalize it for the number of people in the city, is 10 times the homicide rate in New York City, right? So there's all of this coverage about, New York falling apart, and it is. So I'm not, denying that. Like, there are crime problems in New York, but DC has 10 times the homicide rate of New York City. Apparently, that's 8 times the homicide rate in Fallujah. I discovered that today. So it's all no, I mean, in all seriousness, both the stats and the anecdotal experience in Washington, D.C., the anecdotal experience reaches the point of data, which is how, with how voluminous it is. There isn't anyone in Washington, D.C. who doesn't know someone who was a victim of a major crime. Like, honestly, I don't know anyone who doesn't know somebody who was the victim of a major crime. I think Rachel's going to agree with me, living in that area.
I've been a victim of Rachel's crimes many times.
We're all victims of Rachel's crimes.
Many such cases.
Yeah, well.
Take a number.
No, but I'm sure Rachel has her stories too. I have my stories. Emily, I'm sure you have your stories. I was fortunate to do on and off 10 years in the district and never be a victim of a serious crime. But I mean, even the ones that I was a victim of were, and this is like completely normal, to be clear. This is, like you said about Georgetown, this is something that happens in DC, even if you're not hanging out in Anacostia, you're not hanging out in like the bad areas of DC. I had my license plate stolen, and then people, committing a bunch of crimes with my license plates attached to their cars, and I had to deal with that through the city. People exposed themselves to me. I had somebody
once again, that was Rachel.
And go into my building to try to follow me into my building. It wasn't some, it wasn't the stalking that is the stuff of, internet fun and games, right? This is like not somebody who knew me. It was somebody who fixated on me on the street because he was high out of his mind and then followed me into my building and tried to follow me into my home, right? To do who knows what. Anyway, these are very minor crimes, and everybody has experienced these things in Washington, D.C. But yeah, both the stats and the anecdotal experience, it makes it so that they're just lying when they say this is not a problem. Anybody who has been in the D.C. area for any amount of time and is not just coming in and out very briefly, even in the nice areas, and knows how much of a problem this is. And they are just straight up lying because Donald Trump is not allowed to be right about anything in that city. That is the bottom line of this is I'm amazed that they lie so blatantly about this, because I know that there are so many people in Washington, D.C. screeching about authoritarianism right now who are going to be secretly so happy the next time they drive into Capitol Hill that they don't have to like put their head on a swivel when they're in their car at a stoplight.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Rachel, you actually work on Capitol Hill, and you have actually for many years worked on Capitol Hill. So let me get your response to this clip. It's going to be S3. This is MSNBC, I think it was Morning Joe, realizing in real time the politics of continuing to deny the problem that Inez just laid out. S3.
And the murder rate, you can't keep saying violent crime is down, but the murder rate's up. To the average person, the murder rate's about life and death. You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika, they're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap. Yes, it's a trap. I mean, if it's not a winner politically to say, oh, you're wrong, look at the data. Because, if one violent crime happens in a very heavily populated part of the city, people hear about it and it's visceral. They don't want it. And they'll gravitate to the person who appears to be doing something about it.
So, Rachel, just south of Capitol Hill and Navy Yard, there have been multiple teen takeovers, which sounds like a fun thing, right? Where like the Beatles come and everyone gets really excited, and all of the ladies are fanning themselves, like a teen takeover. But actually, what it is pure anarchy in the streets of a residential neighborhood with like luxury buildings and stores and normal restaurants. This has happened like several times over the course of the last few months. People are outraged about it. Not far from Capitol Hill is where a lot of Capitol Hill people work and live. And to Mika's point, this is literally hundreds of teenagers. It has been reported in local news. Hundreds causing anarchy in the streets, literally less than a mile from the seat of our legislature. So it's not just a political problem. It is actually a real problem, not a political one. It is real.
It's insane the amount of gaslighting that has been going on about this topic. So the funny thing about Navy Yard is I used to live there. I lived there before it was gentrified. So there was like two buildings and the new stadium. This is in like 2011 to like 2015. It was safer then when there was literally nothing there except like...
And it probably wasn't very safe.
Yeah, and it wasn't, right? It wasn't, but it was like walkable to the Congress. So that is why I lived there with my, roommates.
And to the Morning Joe studio, by the way. It's like 2 miles from that studio.
And now it's completely built up. It's like marketed as one of the high-end luxury areas of the city. And as you mentioned, there are many members of Congress that live there because of the proximity to the Hill. Mm-hmm. At least 2 members of Congress have been assaulted in that region. Henry Cuellar, I think, was carjacked. There was another member, a female member, I can't remember, I think, who was assaulted.
The elevator.
Yeah, and assaulted in an elevator. Mm-hmm. And that's not to mention the number of, like you said, these like teen gangs that rush the entryways of these buildings. There have been multiple shootings. And again, this is not like marketed as anything but a luxury area of DC. Mm-hmm. And I think it's funny, I tweeted something earlier this week that I thought was so banal. It was like... that I was almost like, why am I even tweeting this? But it basically just said anyone who's lived in D.C. for over a decade knows that the last 5 years, the city has fallen into decline. I did not think that was a controversial statement. It like completely went viral, and the amount of people attacking me for saying this. But it's so true. And I think that's the tragedy of all of this, is that D.C. is an objectively beautiful place. Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful city. It has amazing parks. It's set up in this, wonderful, logical way. It's easy to follow. It has a building code that the buildings in the city cannot be above Lady Liberty of the Capitol. So you don't get these like towering high rises. It's just a gorgeous city. And when I moved here in I don't even want to say what year.
Do it.
It was 2006.
1994. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Close.
The city was on okay, calm down. The city was on a good trajectory. I mean, it's a city like any city, right? You have crime you have to watch out for, but it was fairly low level, and the city was beautiful and welcoming, and it was only going up. And areas of the city were only getting better. And that's what's so devastating about this, is that really it was 2020 that broke this place, and it has become really unlivable in certain sections. And, I've worked in DC in the Southeast quadrant for over 15 years. I walk that city every day. I walk downtown, I walk the Hill, I walk everywhere. You can't walk without someone, especially if you're a woman, harassing you, riding bikes around you, trying to take your stuff. There was a period in 2020 where people would surround your car. My husband gave me pepper spray grenades at that point. And he was like, if you ever get surrounded, throw these out the window. He's since taken them away from me because he was worried I would spray myself, which it's like not an unreasonable.
I'm worried about that. My husband gives me pepper spray in New York, and I'm like, you don't understand. The chance that I'm going to actually successfully pepper spray somebody is way outweighed by the chance that I will pepper spray myself.
But the state of Union Station alone, which if you visited DC, you know where this is, right? It's one of the centerpieces of the city. It is gorgeous. And it's a place where, everybody used to hang out. There were places to eat. You could get your lunch and sit in the center, corridor of the station. They used to have these places where people just gather and hang out. It used to have really fun sushi restaurants, all these places. Now it's overtaken by vagrants and people peeing on themselves and people following you off your train. And that's just been in the last 5 years. So there is a legitimate problem here.
They had to take out every single place to sit that isn't in the lounge and the immediate train boarding area of Union Station, because every single place that had a chair was taken over by vagrants and drug addicts.
Yeah. I told everyone these two were excited to talk about DC crime, and clearly they have 5 years of built-up anger at the situation to vent right now. So let me turn, Inez, back to you to ask a sort of devil's advocate question. Although, to be honest, I won't lie and say I'm not concerned about potential overreach, and maybe all three of us went through the typical libertarian phase of being a person in the conservative movement. But sometimes, those reflexes come back out at me, and I always say the most hillbilly thing about J.D. Vance is that old email or blog he wrote about hating the cops. And sometimes when you see federal law enforcement, there's already been there was a video of them taking a guy who's smoking a joint and arresting him. I'm not saying that I don't even know what I think about that type of thing. I feel like there are bigger problems in the city. There's truancy rates that still haven't recovered from the pandemic that are unbelievable. The level of truancy in DC public schools is mind-boggling and obviously correlated with the rise in juvenile crime that the police chief here was talking about just a couple of months ago. None of this you're hearing in national media. You're not hearing in national media that there's a commander who has been suspended recently for allegations that he's cooking the books, that the DC police union supports Donald Trump's plan so long as it's temporary, because they believe the crime stats are being, that the books are being cooked, and they have believed that for a long time. So, Inez, do you worry that there's a risk of overreach, that in the federal city, the beautiful federal city, there's something just wrong about having to crack down like this? Or what's your take on the potential ways this could maybe veer off course?
No, honestly, what's wrong is that our beautiful federal city that is not maybe the first place that people from outside the United States think about when they think about the United States, but is the seat of our government. And as Rachel said, and I completely agree, is a beautiful city. It is laid out on the basis of Paris. Okay. And there are beautiful row houses all over. There are beautiful monuments all over the mall. It's walkable. It's small. This is part of the reason, by the way, that the crime is so inescapable, is because the city is only, you can walk to Georgetown, from Georgetown to Capitol Hill, which are kind of the furthest 2 points of the city across that are still, sort of highly populated and have a lot of stuff to do in them that isn't just residential. I think that's 4.5 miles. I used to do it all the time. So it's very small. You can't escape the crime with money the way that usually the critique on this, which is an accurate one, and there are people doing this, the critique on the crime in our cities is, with all the libs who say, I'm walking, there was a video that went viral on in Flatiron in New York of all these people eating outside. And it was like, oh, okay. There's no crime here. What are the conservatives worried about? They're all wetting their pants over walking. No, you went to a really nice part of the city, obviously. And that's usually the case.
I left my wallet on a table outside the Flatiron once, one of those little patio tables. Yeah. Came back 20 minutes later, it was still there.
I mean, I wouldn't do that.
It was an
I
accident.
wouldn't recommend it, but no, it's like a really nice part of the city, and you hear these kind of takes all the time, and they are happening in DC. But DC is so small that, as you mentioned in the lead up to this, there was a murder on 33rd and M in Georgetown in 2022, and it was like at 5 or 6 p.m. There was still daylight out, and there was a cold-blooded murder in the middle of Georgetown. There are hit and run, like smash and grabs, everything in Georgetown, even the nice parts of DC, because they're all so proximate, are suffering from this. So no, I don't worry about overreach with this, especially since the federal district is under federal control. Congress and the president control the DC. Okay, so there is no authority that either the mayor or the city council or any of the municipal authorities in DC have that was not explicitly, specially, voluntarily granted to them by Congress. DC has a special status written out in the Constitution. There are a lot of reasons for that. We can talk about why I think DC statehood is a terrible idea for a variety of reasons. But this is a city that has a very special status. And so I don't worry at all about overreach. And frankly, as somebody who was more libertarian on the marijuana issue, even 10 years ago, it's not my bag, as they say, but cheers. But I thought of it as fundamentally harmless. The way that it has become a feature of urban decline and public use has become completely normalized and accepted everywhere, from the playground to those nice tables that you're talking about that you left your wallet. I mean, the number of people who just come down and sit down next to you and just start smoking a huge joint and like make everything stink is huge. So no, I'm happy to see them arrested, and frankly, I get excited when I see these videos. I'm like, this is great. Rachel too, right? Rachel?
Oh, she's already excited. I can tell she has something to say.
Violating the law flagrantly. They expect to continue violating the law permanently, and now they're actually facing consequences. It's like watching a screaming toddler on the plane who's been kicking your seat, get put in timeout. That is the feeling that I'm experiencing right now, watching people get arrested in Washington, D.C.
So, Bovard, I hope they kick you clean out of any Rand Paul alumni group chats that you're in for what you're about to say, because I know it's going to be the full abandonment of your libertarian legacy. You used to be one of the mouth breathers with a fedora.
Well, as I like to say, libertarianism is the starter pack to conservatism, right? If you weren't a libertarian in college, like, what are you even doing? But I really do feel like I've been on like an evolution on this point, because even the point Inez was making, 5 or 10 years ago, I was very sympathetic to the overreach of policing throughout America. I think I've written op-eds and talked about like how I'm against police offices or police stations purchasing war equipment, right? Yep. They'll purchase it from the DOD and use it. Like, I was very against all of that. I was kind of outspoken on those issues. The last 5 years, honestly, have broken me to some extent. Like, my boss's car has been broken into 6 times. The police have done nothing. Like, I used to take my toddler to work to like ride his little tricycle up and down the sidewalk, like stoned teenagers on ATVs going everywhere, like pushing through their scooters. Like, I can't take him to the city anymore. My friend, actually current Rand Paul staffer, was just walking down H Street in Northeast in the middle of the day on a Sunday, was stabbed 4 times. The membrane in his brain pierced by the knife, underwent multiple surgeries. And this was just by a random vagrant homeless man who had been let out of jail the day before. The city, you lose the social contract when you allow your citizens to be harassed in this way. So all of that to say, I was texting you guys earlier about this video I saw on Twitter of a guy.
So you could say that any day. That happens as a day that ends in a Y. I was texting you guys earlier about this video I saw on Twitter.
But it was this man who was clearly like high on something, smacking the FBI officer with a Subway sandwich while wearing a pink lace shirt. And you know what?
Federal crime now that it's a federal official.
No, he ran.
You're going straight to federal court, my friend.
He was arrested. Jeanine Pirro said he will be charged. And at that moment, every last vestige of libertarianism left my body on this point.
And of course, that sentence said everything. This is the Stefan bit. Jeanine Pirro, the libertarianism remaining in Rachel's body, Subway sandwiches.
guys, I'm still against mass surveillance, and I will die on that hill of civil liberties. But everything else.
Amen. Amen. Well, I think we've solved the problem sufficiently to the point where now we should move on to Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift just appeared on what has to have been a live stream that breaks records. I think this was actually a fairly groundbreaking moment in pop culture because Taylor Swift is one of the most famous, one of the most powerful celebrities in the entire world, and yet she has not been on one of the most popular, powerful mediums in the entire world, which is podcasting, until just a couple of hours ago when two football players, one of whom happens to be her boyfriend, but Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce, Mr. Swift as Travis, should henceforth be known. They aren't quite married yet, but we will see. Dropped an episode of their New Heights podcast that was basically a live premiere of their conversation with Taylor Swift about her new album. And guys, I'm about to be really embarrassed by this conversation. Let me
like you said, it's not a day that ends in Y.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so let me just back up and give some personal context. I am slightly younger than these two very young, very energetic.
Control yourself.
You don't understand. Emily, Rachel and I were just texting each other behind in the green room about how we don't like Taylor Swift, but at least she's a member of the Crone Caucus.
Oh,
Unlike you.
Yeah, she's a little bit older than me.
Unlike you.
Yeah, that's what they call themselves. It's weird, but so Taylor Swift is a little bit older than me, but I was like a young teenager, like right in the demo when Taylor started getting famous, and I loved Taylor because I bought into the myth about Taylor as the songwriter and grew up on country music, all that good stuff, and there was something so American and innocent and wonderful about Taylor Swift, and then she became American in a bad way. She became American in this way where she was this like indulgent, woke, and I would say like faux selfless millennial who was starting to find her purpose and meaning through politics and social media, and was doing the breadcrumbs on Tumblr and leaning into calling Marsha Blackburn Trump in a wig and putting out a documentary, Miss Americana, of course. And it just, I thought she was a very accurate reflection of millennial anxiety and rudderlessness. And I feel like actually Travis Kelce has maybe, and this makes me sound like the most misogynistic, basic fairy tale type anti-feminist in the world, but I honestly feel like Travis Kelce has pulled her out of that period of meaningless and purposelessness, and now I find her likable again when she's sitting next to Travis freaking Kelce. Let's roll this clip because she talks a little bit about what it's like to date in like 2025. I guess they probably started dating, 2023? This is going to be S5, Taylor on the algorithm.
Like, information is power, I guess, unless all of your information is geared towards you thinking that everything is about you. Because, not everyone is ever thinking about one person all the time at any point. It's just like, if your algorithm is giving you either criticisms of yourself or adulation or praise, you're creating an ecosystem in which you're the centerpiece of the table. And I just don't think that's healthy. Like, that's not the way I want to move through the world. So I do detach from the internet in a huge way. Like, I'm just not, I have had my comments disabled on Instagram for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
And
it's very
I
smart.
don't miss it.
Yeah.
My business is making music and taking care of my fans. And I have ways of monitoring what they want from me and how best to entertain them, which is my job.
Yeah.
And everything else, I'm just sort of like, it's not my business. I have actual business that I need to run.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if we just talked about what people said about our relationship?
Yeah.
Because if we talked about that would be all we talked about, because there's so much chatter. It's like, we're busy having an actual relationship.
Okay, this is from the woman who used to respond to random fans on Tumblr, which was in a way kind of sweet, but like she was seemingly obsessed with building or constructing this sort of mystery about herself in ways that were occasionally clever. But like 10 years ago, she was another millennial Tumblr girly. Inez, am I wrong to be somewhat moved by that like silly little interaction she had with Travis Kelce and his brother? I don't know. Yeah, I'm wrong, I guess. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, you're wrong. I think this is cultivated like everything else, right? But I do think it says that, as the overused phrase goes, the vibe has shifted, right? But I think
that's a good point. No, wait. Can I just say that's such a good point, because this is happening post 2024 vibe shift. She is no longer obsessed with putting forward this image of herself as a sort of feminist man eater who is, that hasn't been every chapter in her career, but it has been some chapters in her career. Like, she had to prove that to the world. And I feel like this is a Taylor Swift who's not trying to prove anything about men and women anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think I'm a good person to ask, because I've never been a Taylor Swift fan, despite being in her Crone Caucus demographic. I just have never found that her music ever spoke to me. The most misogynistic tweet I've ever
You're
seen.
so Polish. You're so Polish.
The most misogynistic tweet I've ever seen in, I don't know, 15 years or 12 years on Twitter, whatever embarrassing number that is, okay, was this tweet from this woman who said that Taylor Swift represents the interior monologue of all women. I have no response to that. Like, I read the most vicious incel commentary, and I'm like, I think that is less misogynistic than that.
Incredible.
So I've never been a big Taylor Swift fan. It's not even that I hated her. It was just I developed a dislike for her when she was constantly being marketed to me. I have I think a neutral feeling towards her. I didn't like her music, didn't really like her, but didn't hate her either, until they kept shoving her in my face and I finally got annoyed. But yeah, I mean, she is the queen of the algorithm. She's the queen of being able to market herself. I think this is one aspect of that. And if you think this is genuine, I think you are getting played. That being said, she's using to market herself and what she thinks will work to market herself now versus 2 years ago versus 5 years ago, I think does say something about the culture.
Well, these are the lies that you're able to tell yourself because the culture, something is en vogue at the time. And if it's, you need to calm down style feminism, which, again, by the way, just a little personal background here. I had a giant section of the Drudge Report for something I wrote in the Federalist when that music video came out, calling it elitist trash. So for me to be moved by Taylor and Travis, who is the most all-American Ohio NFL dude, and they're sitting there just chopping it up, nothing over intellectualized, because Taylor Swift often does over intellectualized things. She's such a type A millennial woman who's so obsessed.
She's very millennial in that she's super, super self-aware.
Super self-aware. Yes,
really
yes,
self-aware.
Yes.
That is true. In that sense, she is representative of millennials.
But isn't the sanguine take, though, that she is now in a relationship that actually means something?
That's what I'm thinking.
And that pulls you out of yourself.
Yes.
Right? It pulls
Thank you for
out
saying
of this overthink. I mean, who knows, right? This is just my sanguine take on it. But pulls you out of this overthinking, posing performance that her whole life has been up until this point. So maybe who knows? Maybe she's actually happy and is I don't need this.
I think that's what
this is too much for my brain.
I feel like you said what I was trying to say, but my drink is empty, so I couldn't quite get there.
Well, the only other observation I had was that Travis Kelce was looking at her she said the word ecosystem. So hot. I don't even know what that means. So it could also be that.
She's very much
going to be the model of the new pairing of America with the over-credentialed women, which is
so
the woman with the master's degree and the guy who doesn't know what a primary is.
Right. And doesn't need her to have a master's degree, but kind of thinks it's cute.
Yeah.
I actually think the world would be a better place if men just generally treated 90% of the degrees that women have received over the past 30 years as something cute, like the way that they're, oh yeah, she's into Pinterest and she has a master's degree. I think that would be a more accurate way of conceiving of what that is.
Or a master's degree in Pinterest.
I mean,
that's coming.
You laugh, but it's getting pretty close to that. Have you seen some of these college course descriptions?
No, I know you
have a PhD in Harry Potter.
Well, Bovard does.
Oh, well, naturally. I don't talk about that one. Actually, it's hanging on the wall over there.
Well, I'm going to roll one more clip, and it's going to be of Taylor and Travis, but it's also going to lead our way into a lovely headline in The Cut. So let's go ahead and roll S6 here.
Like, it was such a wild romantic gesture to just be like, I want to date you. Like, on, I don't know. It was, at first when I looked at it, I was like, this dude is.
That's what it does when you're on the stage and you perform in Arrowhead. That's what it did.
This dude didn't get a meet and greet. He's making it everyone's problem. Like, I'm not an online person at all. I'm not like on social media like that. And like, I'm genuinely terrified to open my DMs.
Smart.
It's just like, there's smoke coming out of my DMs. Like, I don't want to go near that. I don't know what's
If you want somebody to go through it, I'll go through it just because I'll laugh my ass off.
It's like if you have like 20 million unread DMs, you're just like,
entertained?
So this kind of felt more like I was in an 80s John Hughes movie and he was just like standing outside of my window with a boombox, just being like, I want to date you.
Yeah.
Do you want to go on a date with me? I made you a friendship bracelet. Do you want to date me?
Just come outside and meet me. Just meet me once. Just give me a chance.
So I was like, if this guy isn't crazy, which is a big if, this is sort of what I've been writing songs about wanting to happen to me since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
This is sort of what I've been writing songs about wanting to happen to me since I was a teenager, right off the cuff, off the dome, on the podcast. Inez is wrong. It's not all fake. Let's put this Cut headline on the screen, F6. The headline, this is by Emily Jashinsky, who writes sort of predictably laughable articles like this. I was on a panel with her once. She was very lovely, but this is a sort of typical Cut story. This economist crunched the numbers and stopped dating men, and she's never been happier. I don't know if you guys read this one. You really don't need to. You could probably fill in all of the blanks and just guess that it's an article about a new lesbian who decided, because just weren't enough men out there that would fulfill these sort of unfulfillable expectations, to go leave her husband, be with a woman, and crunch the numbers to sort of get to that point. But it almost feels like the juxtaposition of Taylor going like, I don't even want to, like, there's a temptation to call it trad, but it's not trad. It's just baseline womanhood, to sort of like going back to that at the same time when these articles in The Cut are starting to feel more and more niche and less like it seems to me, at least, that the Cut is now aware, or increasingly aware, that this is niche. This is not going to be something that they're going to push on the rest of the country. They can have the 5 people in Williamsburg read the story and pay to read it. And that's what their future looks like. And am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, this follows up on that New York Times piece from a couple weeks ago about hetero-pessimism and hetero-fatalism, right? 2 words that I've added to my vocabulary in the last couple weeks, much to my chagrin. Look, every week there's a new one of these viral pieces that all add up to basically complaining that men aren't women. So I'm really glad that somebody has finally taken it to the logical conclusion, which is that you should just date women if this is what you're interested in. To be honest, Sapphic Palia probably is weeping in a corner here. Like, there's nothing romantic about dating a woman because she'll clean the counter the way that you will, right? Like, this is I don't know. This is a low point for lesbianism, I feel like.
And you know what? Inez has declared it a low point, so it is a low point. Rachel, low point for lesbianism from your perspective and your perch at the Conservative Partnership Institute, where such things are declared.
Yes, we can officially declare it a slump. Lesbianism is in the valley. No, but like, I find this stuff so tedious. Like, these articles they just grate. Like, the one, I was pulling it up on my phone. The line that really broke me in this whole piece was when she was like, steaming her wife's shirt, for example, can be a gesture of love and care because she's super nervous about her first day, rather than I'm expected to do this because of the patriarchy. You're not. Like, you're freaking not. Like, I think that one killed me because, like, my husband literally steams my clothes. Like, and he doesn't do it because of, like, the matriarchy or the patriarchy. He does it because he cares about me and he doesn't want me to look like a slob when I leave.
I was going to say, it's probably more that he doesn't want to be embarrassed because he's very well dressed.
Totally fair. But, like, these people live like this. They live in a checkbox, right? Like they go to places and they're like, I'm not allowed to enjoy this if there aren't this many Black people, this many queer people, this many trans, and non-binary professing. Oh, there are? Okay, I'm allowed to enjoy this. Oh, I'm in a relationship, but I'm not allowed to be happy because, there is seasons in my life where I have to do more of the housework than my spouse. Like, you are destined to be miserable. And I feel like these people, it's like a vortex of misery that they're just sucking me into. I'm like regretting that you guys made me read that.
I don't regret it at all.
Can I flip this around? I think I think it's the other way around. They're a vortex of misery, and then they're feeding the misery into a academic jargon machine and coming up with new terms. And the New York Times piece a couple weeks ago, I think, was the most transparent example of this, where the whole piece added up to the men that I'm attracted to won't date me. And with no self-reflection on that fact whatsoever, she made it into an ism. There is a lot of politics. I mean, the left is not wrong. The personal is political, but in this case, it's the personal feeding the political, and it's the elephant in the room that people don't want to say because it seems mean, and I don't want to attack anyone personally, but it's so clear and transparent in all of these viral pieces that it is personal disappointment or even legitimately bad experiences fed into politics with ISM attached to the end of it.
So speaking of a low point for lesbianism, I don't know if your feeds have been algorithmically inundated with the sorority rush videos now that we've
No, that's a high point for lesbianism.
August. Eye of the beholder, I suppose. This is going to be V2. We can roll it over the screen. I don't know if you guys' algorithms have been spitting these at you like mine has. We've seen these over the last, 5+ years starting to go viral. There have been some really funny people who juxtapose their sororities rush video this year with their sororities rush video in like 2012, where they're all dressed in like menswear and like doing joke dances and not taking it seriously at all. But these are high production level routines. They're clearly competitive with one another, very, very choreographed and very, what is the word? Heteronormative is the word, just like Taylor Swift's relationship with Travis Kelce that we saw in detail for the first time tonight, finally, raw, Chelsea or whatever they call it. I don't know. I don't know what they've labeled it. But Rachel, I'll start with you on this one. I haven't been able to quite wrap my head around what I think about these sorority videos. Like, I don't know. Like, tell me, is there some type of cultural takeaway from this?
Boobs are back.
Whoa.
Right? Like,
did they ever go away?
No, no, they did.
High point of lesbianism.
I know, right? No, it's the revenge of the cisgender women who are just like tired of looking at ugly lesbians on every cover of every magazine. I'm sorry. Like, this is what we were forced into, and people are sick of it. And like, give Sydney Sweeney a Presidential Medal of Freedom because the woman brought boobs back. Women are allowed to be hot again.
Whoa.
Just as Inez and I age out of the category. It's really unfair.
Wow. I'm waiting for you guys to make a video like that. Inez, are you making one of those? Is IWF going to make one of those?
Yeah, I'm working on it right now. Anyway,
love that.
I'll be out your next show. Okay, Emily. The three of us will do a coordinated dance the next time we do this. No,
we won't.
Don't. Whoever Kelly, your producer, don't listen to me right now. Don't
you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that evil on me.
Enter your head. No, I mean, like, there is an element of this that you can be accused of overthinking everything, right? Where it's just, okay, sororities have existed, frat parties have existed all of this time just because it gets, viral or not, or gets coverage or not. So you can be accused of that kind of overthinking, and maybe there's something to that accusation. But I actually think this is a case of woke more correct. I don't know if people are too online like me and see that phrase on Twitter a lot, but I think the woke reaction to this is actually the correct one, and that's to recognize that aesthetics are intimately connected and interwoven with the politics and the, for lack of a better word, vibes of an era, right? Mm-hmm. And it says something about us that this kind of blonde bombshell jeans Americana look, it's not that they're Nazis. That's not what they're about. Right. Yeah. It's the fact that this kind of Americana look is back. This 80s, 90s redux is back. And I think it does say something about our self-confidence maybe and our fed upness. It's not a word, but as Rachel said about, we're just sick of an era where the defining advertising characteristic was the obese Black woman in really tight like Calvins, right? I think
Lizzo?
the
You're talking about
juxtaposition.
Lizzo?
What?
Lizzo, who's, by the way, now getting healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a whole conversation there about Ozempic too, but
I think she has not used Ozempic.
I think it is indicative of something more seriously changing in the culture than people who are dismissing this commentary as completely silly. Obviously, there's a million sad takes online where people are just like, woke is defeated because blonde sorority girls are dancing, right? But there is something to aesthetics, either reflecting or in fact leading, the feeling of the country. And so I actually think this is probably a better predictor than a lot of commentators on cable TV.
So go ahead.
Beauty is biological, but it's also aspirational. And we've been stripped of both for the last 5 years. And I'm not just talking about people, I'm talking about buildings, I'm talking about like city streets, even going back to the top of the conversation about DC, right? Our cities have become squalor. Towns across America are falling apart. Like you shove detritus into people's faces for so long, the human condition doesn't want it. They don't accept it. And America has had so many years of, cultural beauty and beauty all around us. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking for. Not that I think a sorority rush video is like, peak Picasso or anything like that, but it's like you're starting to see this resurgence of people saying no.
It's
like
more of a Kincaid.
Right. Right. Jackson Pollock. I don't know, whatever. But like people are revolting. Against
the word.
Yeah. Against
DHS has been posting Kincaid paintings.
But people just don't, it's again, like, don't believe what your eyes tell you, right? When we keep being told ugly is beautiful, brutalist architecture is beautiful, modernity is nothing but like cement corridors. People don't want that. That's not the human condition. And so I just think you're seeing us regress a little bit to the norm. I don't think woke is defeated. I think it's still ideologically captured throughout a lot of the progressive institutions. But I do think that this is, gosh, finally, the kids are going to be all right, maybe.
Here's an academic word. It's being decentered.
Yeah, that's right. And it was always decentered. This was the mismatch, is it was decentered in the public, but it was centered in the institutions. And that created enormous strife. And the institutions have sort of cried uncle, I think, against the public backlash for now. But Inez, you've written beautifully for years about how the professional managerial class is deeply committed to this entire ideology as their worldview, because they sort of came up with it as their worldview and lacked tethers to anything deeper. And that's where a lot of them will remain, because it would take a lot to sort of change literally the foundation of what you believe creates meaning and purpose in life. One final thought, which one of you mentioned John Hughes? One of you just mentioned John Hughes. Guess who else mentioned that? Taylor Swift, in her description of what it was like to fall in love with Travis Kelce. So I think it's 2025. We have sorority girls mud wrestling in Bud Light again. It's Trump's America. Taylor Swift is back to being a basic bitch, and everyone feels free.
Nature is healing.
Golden era.
That's right. That's right. You two, this was so much fun. You were, of course, here for the very first show, and it's only been 2 months, but I'm nostalgic, and I need you guys. You're sort of like my what's the best way? My comfort blanket. So thank you. Thank you for being here with us today.
Anything for you, Emily.
Happy to be your blanket.
All right. Oh, boy. Get out of here. Okay. Go to bed. Go to bed. Now, over the years, I have been very clear about this. I am not just pro-birth. I am pro-life. Everyone who's pro-life should also, of course, be pro-birth, pro-life, all of those things that go together. And being pro-life means standing with mothers, not only before their baby is born, but long after. And that is exactly why I partner with Preborn, and very proudly partner with Preborn. Preborn doesn't just save babies. They make motherhood abundantly possible. They provide free ultrasounds and share the truth of the gospel with women in crisis. And then they stay with real practical help, including financial support for up to 2 years after the baby is born. That is what true Christ-centered compassion looks like, not just for the baby, but for the mother too. And here's where you can make a difference. Just $28 provides a free life-saving ultrasound, one chance for a mother to see her baby. And when she does, she is twice as likely to choose life. I love that. Preborn is trying to save 70,000 babies this year, 70,000 babies. So don't just say you're pro-life, live it, help save babies and support mothers today. Go to preborn.com/Emily or call 855-601-2229. That's preborn.com/Emily. All right, before I let everyone go tonight, I just want to update you on a big story. Jussie Smollett is making a comeback. And I'm not joking. Jussie Smollett is actually making a comeback. Let's cut to F8. This is a splashy profile of Jussie Smollett in Variety today. Here's the headline. Jussie Smollett, what is it? Slammed Chicago police, Rahm Emanuel as, quote, villains while denying hate crime hoax and mounting a comeback. My story, quote, has never changed. I mean, this is incredible stuff. There's a documentary that's going to stream next week on Netflix about Jussie Smollett. I believe it comes out on August 22nd. And Smollett is standing, Jussie Smollett, in your head, you always think Juicy, but then I know that I'm supposed to say Jussie. You guys don't mind if I say Juicy, but you know, you're sort of trained, right? This is journalism after all, to be accurate and of course to be neutral. And so in the interest of being neutral, I have to call him Jussie, but it's pretty hard not to call him Juicy. So there's a new Netflix doc coming out next week that is called The Truth About Jussie Smollett. And he says, according to Variety, quote, the Chicago establishment conspired to frame him. He claims he experienced a hate crime, one that the world came to believe he faked. Why would the Chicago PD and Emanuel do this? Variety asks. Quote, he answers the question with two questions. Could it be that they had just found out about the missing minutes and missing tape from the murder of Laquan McDonald? Could it be that the mayor helped hide that? Jussie Smollett says. He then goes on to address why two Nigerian American brothers started talking to the cops and confessed in great detail with receipts to, quote, cooperating with authorities, claiming that they carried out the attack at Smollett's behest, as Variety puts it. What does Smollett have to say to that? Why would two people make up a story like that? He replies, all I can say is God bless you, and I hope it was worth it. Every single other person's story has changed multiple times. Mine has never. I have nothing to gain from this. So here we are. Speaking of everything we were just discussing with the vibe shift, the Jussie Smollett case happened in 2019. I would say that probably early 2020, that time period is really, if we have to call it woke, that was like peak woke, capital P, capital W. That's as this wave is starting to crest. And all of these celebrities, politicians put out statements immediately after Smollett's story broke into the media, offering unconditional support of Smollett. And I think probably decades from now, we will look back at this example and Covington Catholic that was around the same time frame. I want to say that was like it might have been 2017, 2018, but it's within the same time frame as we build up to 2020 and then to 2024 when you start to see real backlash. This was in the time frame where the reflex of people in positions of power was just to support, not question anyone, and not acknowledge that people can exploit the good faith of the public for power, that people can exploit these woke claims, quote, woke claims, for power, that it could be when elites are all embracing the same ideology, a way to sort of burnish your credentials and your reputation and gain yourself more money and more power. And this was obviously happening. I think Taylor Swift did it a couple of times. The You Need to Calm Down music video is a good example. The Miss Americana Netflix documentary about her uphill battle against Marsha Blackburn is an example of this. While we're kind of going full circle from the start of the episode to the end of it on today's show. For Jussie Smollett to come back in 2025 and try to mount a serious comeback, to me is fascinating because I think, really, he's going to, mark my words, succeed with a slice of the microculture. We don't have macroculture anymore. We don't have monoculture anymore. But what we talk about here is that the microculture is basically what we all cluster into in various genres, whether it's music, movies, politics. It's where we find ourselves. And I think Jussie Smollett is probably going to find a group of people who believe every word he says. I think that's going to be the case. I think because he is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down, he's going to convince some small number of people that he's really telling the truth and that something shady was going on. When you combine microculture with low institutional trust, which is what we have in the United States right now, it is ripe for a bad actor like Jussie Smollett to exploit for his own power and reputation. Do I think he is ever really going to be a mainstream? I mean, he was on Empire making like $100K an episode. One of the biggest shows. It was one element of monoculture, one scrap of monoculture that remained at the time. And really, we don't have much like that anymore. And it's only been 6 years. But he was a bona fide celebrity. He was, not a household name, but he was on a primetime hit television show on a network. I don't think he's ever going to be anywhere like that again. I think very few people ever will be in positions like that again because of the way that we're splintering into these niches. But the intensely low institutional trust that we have in this country, I think has made an opening in the market for Jussie Smollett to come back in with all of the conviction of a man who will not cede an inch of ground to the obvious reality that he concocted this hoax. He will not cede an inch of ground. And that conviction is persuasive and attractive. And when you combine it with low institutional trust, so meaning of the court system, which his case went through, it got off on a technicality at one point, of the police and of the media, there's a way for Jussie Smollett to mount a comeback and make a little money. It's not going to be Empire money, but he'll be able to make a little money. All right, I always say this, but Wednesdays are sad because I unplug all the equipment and then I don't get to see everyone, all of you, until Monday. But make sure that if you're not watching us live, make sure you're catching up on podcast platforms. Make sure you email me at emily@devilmaycaremedia.com if you have questions. I try to answer all those emails, try to read all those emails. emily@devilmaycaremedia.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It was a blast to have Inez and Rachel here. Love, love, love having them around. We will see you back here on Monday, 10 p.m. Catch up on podcasts if you can't stay up late. You're old like Rachel and Inez. Otherwise, 10 p.m. live Mondays and Wednesdays. We'll see you back here with more next week.